guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Reagan and this is my channel Ray Reads, and today I'm going to be doing my December wrap up. Yeah. So I read a total of 8 books in December and we're gonna go ahead and start talking about them. Also, I don't normally do stats, like I don't talk about like how many pages I read and like different authors and like different mediums. So let me know in the comments below if you guys prefer stats, like if you like hearing that stuff or if you don't really care. Because personally, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. Like whenever people do that in their videos, I like sometimes skip through it. So if you guys care about that, I'll start including that. But otherwise, if you don't care, then I just will continue to not. But let me know if you guys do like that stuff and I will throw it in if you guys would prefer that. So let's go ahead and get started with the first book. So the first book that I read this month was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adahy. I don't know how to say her name, but that is it right there. I don't want to mispronounce it, but anyways, this is a book about a girl and I don't even remember her name, or I don't know how to pronounce it. I think that's the problem. It's Charizard, I think that's how you pronounce it, but she is a woman in this like world, and basically there is a prince who is about to become the king, and he is like taking a bride, and each night he takes a new bride, and then on their wedding night they wake up the next morning and she's dead, and she has like a silk cord tied around her neck and she's been like strangled basically, and everyone believes it to be like the cursed prince, like he's just evil and he is a murderer and he's just not a good guy. So Charizard's like best friend gets taken as one of the brides and dies, and she is set out to take revenge for her best friend's death. So she volunteers herself as a bride to go basically kill the prince, and she starts to realize that there is more to him than what meets the eye, and things aren't always what they seem, and it is so good. I think I gave this book 4 stars. I don't really remember. Let me check. Yes. So I gave this book 4 stars. It was really good. When I finished it, I wanted to immediately jump into the second one, and I didn't, and I kind of wish I had, because now I don't know if I'll ever read it. I do have it, but I don't know if I'll ever get to it, because like it was good, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I feel like with YA series, if I don't read the next book like immediately after and I like read the series one after the other, I like won't get to it, because I feel like if I wait any longer, I'll forget all the names and the people and the context, and by the time I get to the second one, I'm gonna have no earthly idea who is who and what's going on. So unless I get to it this month, who knows if I ever will, but this was really enjoyable. I really had a great time. If you like YA, kind of that like dystopian world kind of thing, or like fantasy a little, it's not really fantasy because they're all just like normal humans, but there's like a curse or something. So if you like that kind of stuff, you would definitely enjoy this book. Then I finished My Darling Arrow by Saffron A. Kent. I had started this book in November, like the beginning of November, and then like just stopped reading it for some reason at like 86%. Like I don't know what was up with me. I was like at the very end of the book and I just like stopped reading for some reason. But anyways, I picked this book back up at the beginning of December to make sure I finished it because I really was enjoying it. I think I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I did. I always forget what I rate these books, especially at the very beginning of the month. But I rated this book 4 stars. I had a really good time at the beginning and I was like leaning towards like a 4.5 or just like, I don't know. I think it was a 4. I don't know. I think the fact that I stopped reading randomly kind of like affected that. I think I might have given this 3.5. All right. Well, I'm going to give it 3.5. I didn't review this book, so I don't have like a specific rating on here. I just have 4 stars. But I think I'm going to give this book 3.5 stars. It was more of a 4-star read for me, but then as I continue to get through it, I was kind of like eh, and obviously that's very clear from the fact that I just stopped reading at 86% and didn't finish it. So I went back and finished it and it was still okay. It was a great, enjoyable read. Oh my gosh. My pizza! Why did I put a pizza in the oven while I started filming? Okay, we're gonna speed this along because my pizza's out of the oven and I'm ready to eat. But I don't even remember what I was talking about. But I decided to give this book 3.5 stars. Let me tell you guys what it's about. I'm an idiot. So, oh look, I did leave a review. I'm a literal idiot. Okay, and I did say 3.5 stars. Look at me go. So basically, this book is about a girl named Salem, and she is kind of a troubled girl. Her parents died, or her mom died or something when she was young, and she moved in with her mom's best friend and like her son, and she falls in love with the son when she's like 8 and he's like 11 or 12, and he doesn't really see her though like that because he is in love with her sister, who is a couple years older than her. So she grows up always in love with him, and her sister and him like start dating when they're like in high school. And by the time it fast forwards to like the present, she's like a senior in high school and he is off playing soccer kind of in like the national level. I don't really know what that's called, but he plays in a different state, and her sister is like with him and they're still dating. And basically she runs away from home and gets put in like this like girls' school. It's like a boarding school that her like adoptive mother, the woman who like took her in, is the principal to. So anyways, this book is basically just about her like in love with this guy who's like totally doesn't see her that way, and basically he comes home really abruptly because something happened and he doesn't want to talk about it, and he starts teaching soccer at the school, the boarding school that she's at, and she loves soccer and she plays soccer because she loves him and he plays soccer. Anyways, it becomes this like teacher-student romance, like a little bit of an age gap. There's like 3 or 4 years in between, and it's a little bit forbidden for that aspect, and the fact that she like lived with him at some point. But it was like good. It was like pretty well written. I just like didn't capture my attention like I expected it to, so that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I picked up Inked and Lies by Gianna Darling. This was actually in my top 10 for this year. If you haven't watched that video, go check it out. It'll be linked above in the cards and down below in the description. But this book is so good. This is the 5th book, I believe, in the Fallen Men MC series. This is a motorcycle club romance series by Gianna Darling, and let me tell you, it's a good series. I love this series with my whole heart. Gianna Darling is actually one of my favorite authors, and I love this book. It's probably my new favorite out of all of the other MC books. I haven't read her new one yet, Dead Man Walking, but I plan to very soon. So this book follows Nova and Lila, and Nova and Lila, I feel like I've explained this so many times on my channel, so if you have already heard this plenty of times, it's fine. So Nova and Lila basically grew up together. Lila lived in this house with her dad, who was like this drug lord in Canada, and her brother, who like took care of her, basically raised her because her father was like constantly bringing scary men into the house. And basically she just grows up in a really toxic home environment. And when she is like 8, there's like a huge accident, and Nova kind of saves her. And Nova's family ends up adopting her and her brother, but they get separated for a little while and then they come back, and they all live with Nova's family, and it's great. It's a good time. And then Nova goes off and joins a motorcycle club, which is the Fallen Men MC, and he kind of brings Lila into that, and they kind of find family within the MC club, and it is so cute. It is so just the found family in this series is so amazing. But basically she has been in love with him since she can remember, and he is clearly like attracted to her and has always loved her, but he feels like he can't love her the way she deserves because he just feels like he's dirty and not like good enough for her. And it is such a beautiful story. It's just kind of their romance and how they deal with all that. But underneath the scenes, there's also like a subplot going on where there is like this sex trafficking ring going on, and they're trying to bust it, and she's like trying to get involved to like bust it from the inside. Anyways, very good story, beautifully written. I mean, the words and the phrases and just the way that Gianna writes is so beautiful. I love this story with my whole heart. 5 stars. Also, I'm sorry for like this light situation going on here. We're just gonna ignore it. So then I picked up An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I DNF'd this book about halfway through. Oh look, my bookmark's still in here. We'll get that out. So this book is about a girl who is a like artist in this fairy world, and basically she gets like enchantments as payment for her art, and she basically does a self-portrait for the king of like the autumn court or something, or the prince, I don't know what he is, but he basically sees the portrait when she finishes, and he like reveals it to his whole court, and everyone's like, oh my god, like he looks like weak is what he says, like the way that she drew him showed his vulnerabilities. And so he comes to collect her and is like, you have to come to my court to like repay me for like all the damage you did because of this portrait that you did, and you're gonna like redo it. So he takes her to his court, and that's as far as I got. They had just arrived at court, and it was like 150 pages in, or no, it was like, actually, yeah, I guess 150 pages in, because that's about half the book. But I got about 50% of the way through and then was like, I just was not feeling it. This was the first book, I believe, that I picked up for the DCG Readathon, which was the readathon that I did with a few other booktubers this month. But this book was just not for me. I didn't rate it because I usually don't rate DNFs unless it's like for a valid reason, but I just like wasn't feeling it. It's just not my vibes. I wasn't really here for it. So that's just my opinion. I feel like a lot of people love this book, but it just wasn't for me. Then I picked up Moving On by Emma Tharp. This is the first book in the Mclaughlin Brothers series. This is a series of novellas. I think there's 3 books that follow like 3 brothers. And I really have nothing to say about this book. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was enjoyable. It was everything you'd love out of a romance novel, but it was just like shortened, and I don't really know how to rate novellas because I've never read one until this book. And it was just really short, really quick, and it was a good read. Like I had a great time reading it, but it was just like I didn't feel very attached to the characters because I wasn't there for very long, if that makes any sense. Like I didn't know the characters well enough to feel very attached, so I didn't necessarily care in the end, if that makes sense. But it was a good story and it was well written, so I just figured I'd give it 4 stars. But I really don't have a lot of thoughts on this book. I guess I can tell you guys what it's about if I even remember. Basically, it is about this girl. I do not remember her name. I'm not even gonna try to remember, but she basically goes off to Ireland, I believe, Scotland, I don't know, some country, and she's going because her and her grandmother made plans to go there as a trip for the girls, just the 2 of them, but her grandmother had like a heart attack and couldn't go, so she's like in the hospital just chilling. So she goes by herself to like do this trip that she promised to do with her grandma, and while she's there, she runs into a guy that she knew in her past. He was dating her friend, and then they only dated for a little while, but she just like kind of knew him. But they start like this flirtatious relationship, and then they just decide to like do this friends with benefits situation while they're in Ireland, because they're like, let's just have a great time, and then whenever we go home and we can just like forget about it. But obviously they catch feelings, and that kind of translates to them coming home, and while she's there, something kind of happens and she has to come home abruptly. And anyways, it's just kind of their story. There's nothing crazy or really anything to it, but it was like 100 pages. So if you're looking for a really short, quick, easy romance novella, I would definitely pick this one up. Then I picked up Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. This is for the Percy Jackson read-along that I'm doing, and I also used it for one of my prompts for the DCG readathon that I hosted, and I gave this book 4.5 stars, I believe. Okay, I didn't rate it. I don't remember what I gave this. It was either 4.5 stars or 5. This was my favorite out of the series aside from the first one. I really love the first one, probably just because of like the nostalgia and just like the beginning of the story. I just love that. But I think this one was much better than the second and the third one. This one had a little bit of a different overarching theme. I feel like a lot of these books can become a little bit repetitive, and this one had a little bit of some differences to it. I loved the labyrinth. The maze was just so cool. I just like that the characters were getting older. This was definitely one of my favorites out of the series, and I don't really have any thoughts about it. I'm not going to explain what this book is about because you probably already know, so that's my thoughts on this one. Then I picked up Paper Girls by, I don't even know who this is by. Okay, it's by a bunch of people. It's by a Brian K. Vaughan, Cliff Chiang, and Matthew Wilson. Anyways, this is a graphic novel about paper girls who go on this paper route and throw the newspaper out to people's houses. And on their paper route, they run into this like crazy people that like don't speak English, and basically they are time travelers that are coming to like save the world from other time travelers, if that makes any sense. I don't really know. I only read volume 1, and it really leaves you on a cliffhanger, and you really don't know much about the story at this point, so I'm not totally sure. But I gave this book 5 stars. It was so enjoyable. It was exactly what I wanted out of a graphic novel. It was so fun, so fast paced. I mean, the humor in this book was amazing. It was so good. It was like, I think that's the second graphic novel I've ever read. I've only read Heartstopper volume 1 and 2, so I definitely want to get more into that because I had so much fun with this, and it was a quick and easy read, and I had such a good time reading this. So I would love to pick up volume 2 and so on, but I had so much fun with this book. I gave it 5 stars. And lastly, I listened to Voyeur by Fiona Cole on audio, and this book was okay. I think I gave it 3 stars. There just was not much to this book. So basically, this is about a girl, can't remember her name, but she is a college student, and her parents like spend all of her money, like her college money that she saved for tuition. So she has to find a job really quick that pays her a lot of money so she can like continue going to school. So her best friend's uncle like owns this like club, and it's like a woman's club, you know. But at this club, people, you know, obviously come, they pay a lot of money to be there, they watch you, and basically she is watched by this man, and next thing you know, he is her professor. So it flips to his perspective and hers. It goes back and forth, and he realizes that he has watched her at this club voyeur, and he's like, oh my god, she's my student, what am I supposed to do? And so he continues to watch her a little bit, and then they start this kind of relationship because she becomes his like TA, or like helping him in the office. So basically they kind of strike up this relationship. He has a lot of past trauma, and she has to learn how to like deal with that and how they can proceed in their relationship even though he does have a lot of past trauma. So that's pretty much where the story takes off. Obviously there is some forbidden aspects to this because first of all, he's her teacher and she's his student, and second of all, it's like kind of originated at this really taboo club. So that's kind of what the story is about. I had not a great time with this book. It was just like okay, and maybe it was just the storyline I didn't really love and not necessarily her writing. It was just, I just did not love it very much. I expected a little bit more from it and I just didn't love what I got. It was just not an exquisite story. Like there was just nothing crazy about it. And the one thing I did really appreciate is the fact that she dealt with his traumas and his triggers really, really well. And I love the way that the book talked about that, because I think that's something that's not talked about a lot. Is like in books, a lot of people be like, I have trauma and I have triggers, and then we just never talk about it again. But in this book, it was very much so present in their relationship, and she had to come up with ways to like be physical with him by not triggering him, and that was very interesting to see. So anyways, this book was okay. I gave it 3 stars. I just wish that there was a little bit more to the story maybe. I don't know. It was just not it for me. So anyways, I gave it 3 stars. But that was the last book I read. I read that on the 30th of this month. So that was the last book that I read. Those were all 8 books that I read in the month of December, and it was a pretty good reading month. Not one of my favorites. I read a lot of books that were out of my comfort zone and a lot of books that weren't necessarily what I wanted to read. I had a lot of reading commitments this month that I had to get to. So I'm very excited for January and just letting myself mood read and read all the things that I want to read, because I'm just super ready for that and I'm craving that. So I'm very excited for January. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It really helps to support me. And as always, make sure to check the description box to follow me on social media. I'm really active on Instagram and Goodreads, so make sure to follow me and add me there. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. There must be something bad.